pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Please be seated. We can call it to order. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, thank you this morning. I'm pleased to, as our rotating responsibility to have someone offer the prayer, I'm pleased to have former legislator, member of the House of Representatives, Brandon Jones, who's now the Executive Director of the Southern Poverty Law Center here in Jackson, to come and offer. His father was here a year ago, something like that. We'll see if you can beat your old man at this.
And
see how productive you are on this.
And a Pascagoula boy.
And a Pascagoula guy. And so, Brandon, thank you for agreeing to come this morning and give our opening prayer.
Certainly. Thank you. Let us pray. God, we come to you this morning in spirit of gratitude, thankful for the gifts of this day and the opportunities that this day presents. We ask for your guidance over this body and the work it performs, for the commissioners and the dedicated staff who provide this important public service. We ask that you grant them judgment and compassion. We also pray for those who rely on this body to make sound decisions, ratepayers from across our state, and utilities who deliver vital resources. God, we pray for our country. We've been reminded this year how fragile our democracy can be. We pray that you draw us together, give us a renewed sense of national purpose. We also pray for those who experienced loss across our state this year, those who are suffering physically and financially. Help us to be a state that realizes that institutions and individuals are ultimately measured by the help that they give to the least of these. We ask these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandon. Okay, let's get started. At this time, we're going to start with the energy agenda. Discussion on number 1, possible action regarding the proposed order docket number 2019 UN 219, Mississippi Power Company's notice of intent to change rates pursuant to performance evaluation plan rate schedule PEP 6, 2021 PEP 6 evaluation report. Ms. Myrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this is Mississippi Power's annual PEP evaluation report for the 12 months ending December 31, 2021. Typically, PEP adjusts the company's base rates for the current year and provides a look back at the results of the prior year. However, PEP was suspended for regulatory years 2018, 2019, and 2020 pending the conclusion of the company's general rate case. Therefore, there was no look back filing for 2020. In its 2021 evaluation report, the company filed for an increase of approximately $16 million for the current year. You will recall in April billing, the company implemented a temporary rate increase for this $16 million, which amounted to an increase of $3.02 per month to a 1,000 kilowatt-hour residential bill. After staff's review, the company and staff stipulated to a decrease in the $16 million revenue requirement of approximately $128,000, which reduced the temporary rate of $3.02 by 22 cents to approximately $2.80 for a 1,000 kilowatt-hour residential bill effective for July billing. Additionally, if the company's ECO filing is approved, a further reduction of 95 cents will lower the temporary rate. Therefore, the overall rate impact of the PEP and ECO filings result in a rate increase of approximately $1.85, which is a decrease of $1.17 from the temporary rate of $3.02 reflected in current billing. Staff has reviewed the filing and is satisfied that the amounts as stipulated are a fair and reasonable representation of the company's revenue requirement. Staff recommends approval of the joint stipulation.
Okay, is there any questions?
I move we approve as presented.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion passed. All right, now there's no items on our telecommunications agenda. We're going to move on to water and sewer. And Ross, you're going to take these up together, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll start with number 1, discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order in docket number 2020 UA 143 Great River Operating Company LLC petition for certificate of public convenience and necessity authorizing Great River Utility Operating Company LLC to operate as a public utility in the state of Mississippi, and approval of the sale and transfer of certain assets, facilities, properties, and certificates of public convenience and necessity for the provisions of water service in Adams, Forest, Harrison, Lafayette, Panola, Tate, Yalobusha counties, Mississippi. Number 2 is discussion and possible action regarding the proposed order of docket number 2020 UA 144, Great River Operating Company LLC petition for certificate of public convenience and necessity authorizing Great River Utility Operating Company LLC to operate as a public utility in the state of Mississippi, and approving the sale and transfer of certain assets, facility, property, and certificates of public convenience and necessities for provisions of wastewater disposal services in Adams, DeSoto, Forest, Hines, Lafayette, Lamar, Lauderdale, Tate, and Warren counties, Mississippi. Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you are 2 orders granting Great River Utility Operating Company, LLC, a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate as a water and wastewater public utility in the state, and approving the sale and transfer of a total of 9 water systems and 35 wastewater systems. The systems are as follows: Coast Waterworks, Inc., Delta Rain, Light Waterworks Company, Inc., Oakland Waterworks, LLC, Utility One, LLC, Steve Womack, Belmore Lakes, Culkin Utility Co., DeSoto Sewer, LLC, H&B Corporation, King Farms Development, LLC, Lakes of Oxford Utility Company, LLC, Pecan Lakes Utility, LLC, Ring Road Utility Company, Robertson Utilities of Oxford, S2 Environmental, Shelby Place Utility of Oxford, Taylor Green Wastewater Processing, 12 Oaks Utility Company, Westover West Sewage Company, EnviroScore, Affordable Homes of Vicksburg, Cedar Creek Development, Ironwood Utilities, Pecan Village Utility Company, Wallace Limited, and West Coast Lumber Industries. Great River filed its petition on October 9th, 2020. Notice was provided as required by Commission rules. Customers of the to-be-acquired utilities were provided notice by mail. There are a total of 4 interveners in these dockets: the City of Natchez, Natchez Waterworks, S2 Environmental, LLC, and Red River Utility Company. None of these parties have objected or contested the petition or supplemental petition in this matter, and 2 of the parties, S2 and Red River, are sellers seeking to transfer systems that are subject of these dockets. Oakland Waterworks, LLC, has a currently effective wastewater disposal treatment service agreement with the City of Natchez. These parties have entered a stipulation in 2020 UA 144, where Great River has agreed to take all necessary steps to assign all rights and obligations in the sewer agreement from Oakland to Great River at the closing of the sale of the overall system. Based upon this agreement, the Natchez entities have no objection to Great River's petition. Great River is a Mississippi limited liability company and is part of an affiliate group of state operating companies that are owned and controlled by Central States Water Resources, LLC, a Missouri limited liability company. Central States owns and controls several other states' operating companies which operate small water and wastewater systems in Arkansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, and Tennessee. As I mentioned, Great River has entered into separate asset purchase agreements for 9 water systems and 35 wastewater systems. Great River's original petition generally provided the following documentation concerning its proposed acquisition: pre-filed direct testimony of Mr. Josiah Cox, president of Great River, confidential and redacted / public versions of each asset purchase agreement, corporate organizational documents for Great River and its relevant affiliates and parent companies, maps and legal descriptions, a general description of each system, including a list of customer addresses and any available environmental permitting documentation, and consolidated and audited financial statements of the petitioner, evidencing Great River's financial ability to provide public utility service in the state. On April 21st, Great River filed a supplemental petition for the purpose of correcting the record with respect to certain systems that are the subject of these dockets and clarifying and supporting Great River's request for an acquisition adjustment for the systems being acquired. Turning to the acquired systems, the 9 water systems are estimated to serve roughly 1,500 customers. The 35 wastewater systems are estimated to serve roughly 6,000 customers. The majority of these systems have been in operation for several decades. Initial due diligence conducted by Great River and reviewed by the Commission has confirmed that most, if not all, of the systems require some capital investment and/or maintenance work to restore the systems to reliable operations in compliance with applicable laws and regulations. State Department of Health and DEQ records evidence that several of the systems being acquired have had historic environmental compliance issues of varying degrees. Great River has the experience and expertise to operate the systems, which by all accounts would be an improvement over current levels. Great River is committed to investing the capital necessary to restore the reliability of the acquired systems. Great River's business model and centralized management structure is specifically designed to produce economies of scale and lower cost to customers that would otherwise arise under similar levels of reliability and service. Great River will improve customer service and communication by implementing systems and services such as 24-hour emergency service phone lines, on-call emergency service contractor personnel, computerized maintenance management system, real-time remote monitoring to ensure service reliability, online bill pay options, and up-to-date website bulletins. The orders before you find that the present and future public convenience and necessity require and will require that Great River be granted a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate as a water and wastewater public utility in the state. As it relates to the sale and transfers, the evidence in the docket before the Commission demonstrates that the transaction proposed are in good faith and in the public interest, and that Great River is fit and able to properly perform the public utility services authorized by such certificates. Although not a rate case, Great River provided information regarding customer rate impact. It is noted that the rate base issue is currently before this Commission, while the second issue regarding future increases in cost is not ripe and will be fully addressed in a subsequent rate case once the cost impacts are known and evidence can be presented. There is a question as to whether Great River's request for a commitment from this Commission for future rate-based treatment constitutes an acquisition adjustment. Great River has submitted a legal brief discussing the applicable law which the Commission has reviewed. The policy considerations and implications for granting an acquisition adjustment are important. Having considered the circumstances of this case and the current state of water and wastewater infrastructure in the state, the Commission has been convinced a narrow change in policy is warranted in this particular case. The general circumstances concerning the state's infrastructure and the specific facts of this case, namely the scalability and centralized operations of various systems under consolidated ownership, justify the adoption of a policy that will incentivize responsible, experienced, and well-capitalized companies like Great River to acquire old, out-of-compliance systems so that they can be rehabilitated and operated reliably and in compliance with ever-increasing environmental regulations. Specific to the 44 systems in these dockets, most if not all of the systems being acquired are decades old. Great River's due diligence to date indicate many are in disrepair. Many of the current owners and operators are or have been out of regulatory compliance. 37 of the 44 to-be acquired utilities have failed to file annual reports. The evidence is clear that vast room for improvement exists. These orders before you find that it is in the best interest of the public and the affected customers to grant Great River's request for an acquisition adjustment. These orders, and for purpose of this record, the Commission would also make clear that a blank check is in no way being issued today. First and foremost, customers' rates are not changing as a result of the Commission's approval today. Any increase in rates associated with Great River's acquisition is not expected for at least a year and only after a detailed rate case. The Commission's order contains several requirements that will ensure customers are protected from unreasonable rates. Great River continues to bear the burden in the future rate case to provide evidence to support the rate base that will ultimately be approved by this Commission. A 50-50 cap structure has been imposed to incentivize reasonable capital funding of the purchase and improvements to be made by Great River. Great River has agreed to routine reporting requirements to allow the Commission and staff to monitor the work being conducted by Great River between acquisition and the first rate case. The initial rate base value has been capped at the value of the total acquisition cost, even if the net book value of the systems are determined after study to be higher. Today's orders are consistent with what several other states are doing to improve their waste and wastewater infrastructure. The Commission's grant of an acquisition adjustment herein does not constitute and should not be construed as a general change in rate policy for all public utilities. Mr. Chairman, based off the evidence in the record, the Commission legal staff recommends approval of the orders as presented.
Okay, we're going to do one or two if you have any questions on anything referred to 1 or 2. Otherwise, if we have a motion, we'll make an adoption or we won't.
I just got one thing to say. Of the 44, one in my district, and I think just to underline, and I shared it with staff yesterday and with our staff, Delta Rain had 147 consumer complaints filed with our office in the Northern District from January 2020 until yesterday, and have at least one time been found in non-compliance with the health department where notices, which may seem minuscule to some in the regulatory business, but scare the living daylights out of customers when they get something from the health department or something that's failed to test. And so I just use that as an emblematic or as an example of the problem of many of these that we have seen, and Delta Rain, for my district, being chief among them. So appreciate the work of everybody.
Yeah, it's been a long road, but I appreciate everybody's work, especially the staff.
Yeah, no doubt that, we have thousands of water and wastewater systems across the state in varying states of disrepair or operational capacity, and certainly good to see this type of activity and this investment made in the state to bring these folks up to compliance and provide good, adequate service to folks in all three districts. So welcome their presence in the state.
I move we approve item 1 and 2 as presented.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. All right, going on to next, we're going to jump on the administrative agenda. Number 1, discussion and possible action regarding the approval of commission minutes for the May 21st term of the commission.
Move we approve as presented.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Number 2, discussion and possible action regarding the drafting and execution of a request for proposal related to legal services pursuant to Mississippi Code 77155 and other related matters. I'd like to start off by saying I think we can all agree that we've preached Mississippi first, using Mississippi companies, and there's a lot of great lawyers here in the state of Mississippi, and I think they deserve an opportunity to work, do some work for the commission. And if we select a law firm, those fees and monies will stay in the state of Mississippi. With that being said, I'd like to have Ross prepare an RFP, and I want to make a motion to allow Ross to prepare a request for proposal related to the legal services pursuant to Mississippi Code 77155 and other related matters.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Lastly, we're moving on to a hearing agenda. So we're going to take a few minutes and,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah, you, go ahead.
my apologies. Do you have the in-ray of that, or do you want me to speak it from here? Mr. Chairman, I apologize, and I think I emailed everybody's chief of staff on this. City of Oklahoma, which is is completely situated in the Northern District's electric department, one customer and many customers in one particular area. The electricity has gone out a grand total of 14 times since the middle of March. These complaints have gone on for a year, and so my motion would be to open a docket, have that case referred to me relating to acts that have been committed or omitted by the City of Oklahoma's electric department related to their reliability, and that would just be an open investigative docket along those lines, using the same reference language as we have in Itabena in other cases like this.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Hammonds, I
All
forgot
right.
that.
Yeah, and actually I had it written.
Gray hair
Right
up here,
over it.
man.
All right, now we are going to move on to our hearing agenda. We'll take a few minutes to get set up for that, so let's say 5 minutes and get everybody lined up. first one, which is going to be 1992 UN 059 Mississippi Power Company, notice of Mississippi Power Company of its 2021 eco-filing pursuant to the company's environmental compliance overview plan. Before the commission, today we will start with entries of appearance. Attorneys from the commission, public utility staff, and Mississippi Power Company. We're going to start with Ross.
Ross Hammonds for the Mississippi Public Service Commission.
Sam Mabry from the Mississippi Public Utility Staff.
Ricky Cox with the law firm of Balch and Bingham on behalf of Mississippi Power Company.
Okay. Mr. Mabry, I understand you're going to present the joint stipulation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, this is Mississippi Power's Annual Environmental Compliance Overview Plan, ECO, for the 12 months ending December 31st, 2021. The ECO rider requires the company to annually provide its actual cost of compliance for the prior year, to file its projected cost of compliance for the current year, to file ECO factors that will allow the company to recover its cost of compliance, and to petition for any environmental certificates of public convenience and necessity for equipment, facilities not previously certificated. However, ECO was suspended for regulatory years 2018, 2019, and 2020, pending the conclusion of the company's general rate case. This is the company's first submittal following the rate case. In its 2021 ECO filing, the company's projected expenditures result in a 2021 revenue adjustment equal to an $8 million decrease, which equates to an estimated rate decrease of approximately 95 cents per 1,000 kilowatt monthly residential bill. After staff's review, the company and staff stipulated that the company's projected ECO expenditures for 2021 are reasonable and in compliance with the approved ECO rider schedule. Staff reviewed the company's actual expenditures for 2018, 2019, and 2020 and determined that certain costs totaling $950 should be removed from the filing. Since staff's recommended disallowance does not significantly impact the company's proposed ECO factors, staff recommends that the current year true-up be adjusted to reflect staff's disallowance. Staff recommends approval of the joint stipulation between the staff and the company.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mabry. Mr. Cox, it's time to swear in the witnesses, so I would like those three witnesses to come forward, and if you would swear them in. Okay, Mr. Cox, you can proceed.
I think at this time, Mr. Chairman, each witness would provide in turn a summary of their testimony for the commission's consideration, and then the company would rest on the stipulation and the recommendation. So if we can start with Mr. Loafman.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good morning. My testimony in this filing includes an overview of the company's environmental compliance plan, including a summary of changing environmental regulations. It includes descriptions of some of the more significant environmental projects that we have ongoing. And as it does every year, it includes a summary of our ECO costs for 2020 and 2021. Some of the more significant projects that we have going on this year include cooling tower pipe trestle replacement at Plant Watson for Unit 5, Plant Daniel bottom ash conversion project, ash pond closure projects at both Plant Daniel and Greene County in Alabama, low NOx burner replacements at Plant Daniel Units 3 and 4, routine cooling tower maintenance at Plant Watson, Ratcliffe, and Daniel, and Plant Watson ash pond post-closure project. I've also included 6 exhibits which provide additional detail about these environmental projects and expenditures, all of which were required to comply with state and federal environmental obligations.
Mr. Chairman, would you like all of the witnesses to summarize before the commission asks any questions, if any?
Please.
Okay. Next, Mr. Ben Vance.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, my testimony summarizes the revenue requirement calculation that essentially pulls in all the cost from Mr. Loafman's testimony and his exhibits. That revenue requirement is done annually in this filing. We've been doing it since 1992. Nothing's changed in terms of the way it's calculated. This year, we determined that the revenue requirement is $58 million. The previously approved revenue requirement from the rate case was $67 million, so that equates to an $8 million decrease.
And next, we have Mr. Eddie Easterling.
Okay, Mr. Commissioners, my testimony consists, and exhibits consist of the calculation of the eco factors. I start out with a revenue requirement provided by Mr. Vance, and then we'll take the retail kilowatt hour sales for the months of January through June 2021 and multiply that time the current factor. Then we will take that revenue amount and back it out of the total revenue requirement for the year. Then we'll take the remaining revenue requirement and divide it by the kilowatt hours, retail kilowatt hour sales for the months of July through December 2021. And for a residential customer who uses 1,000 kilowatt hours per month, these eco factors, if approved, will result in a 95-cent decrease per month.
That's all we have, Mr. Chairman, and we would tender the witnesses to staff and commission's questions.
All right, do commissioners have any questions for any of these witnesses at this time? Well, hearing none, do I have a motion?
So move we approve the orders presented.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Cox. We are going to take a few minutes, and Mississippi, your team can go, and we're going to bring up another hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You guys ready? Okay. All right, before the commission is 2018 UN 205, Entergy Mississippi LLC Notice of Intent of Entergy Mississippi to implement revisions to the Formula Rate Plan 2021 FRP 7 Evaluation Report. We'll start again with entries of appearances. We'll recognize the attorneys from the commission,
Ross Ammons for the Mississippi Public Service Commission.
utility staff,
Sam Mabry for the public utility staff.
and then Entergy Mississippi.
Tiana Raby, along with co-counsel Alicia Hall and Alex Martin for Entergy Mississippi.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Mabry, I understand you're going to, again, joint stipulation.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, on March 3rd, 2021, Entergy Mississippi LLC, EML, filed its annual formula rate plan, FRP 7 Evaluation Report, 2021 Evaluation Report for the 12 months ending December 31st, 2021. FRP 7 requires EML to make an annual filing for the current year along with a look-back filing of the 12 months ended December 31st, 2020. In the 2020 look-back filing, the company filed for an interim adjustment of $18.5 million. The 2021 evaluation report indicated an increase of $95.6 million for the 2021 test year is necessary. However, due to the 4% limit on revenue adjustments, the company is requesting a revenue adjustment of approximately $48.2 million. You will recall in April billing, the company implemented a temporary rate that was capped at $22.1 million, or 2% of total revenues. Additionally, in April, EML began recovery of the DSM revenue requirement in the amount of approximately $4 million and the Choctaw additional capacity cost true-up of approximately $1.7 million, which amounted to an increase of $1.80 on a 1,000 kilowatt-hour residential bill. After staff's review on June 1st, the company and staff entered into a joint stipulation regarding EML's March 3rd filing, where the staff and company agreed to the following. Staff made certain adjustments to EML's look-back filing, which resulted in a reduced revenue requirement of $17.5 million, which was a reduction of $965,000. Additionally, staff proposed adjustments to EML's 2021 evaluation report, but staff's adjustments did not change the company's filed revenue requirement of $48.2 million due to the 4% cap on revenue adjustments. The joint stipulation results in a final stipulated revenue requirement of approximately $44.3 million, or an increase of $3.74 per month for a 1,000 kilowatt-hour residential customer that will be applied to billing months of July 2021 through June 2022. The overall rate increase resulting from Schedule FRP 7 is $5.54 per month for a 1,000 kilowatt-hour residential customer. Staff is satisfied the amounts as stipulated are a fair and reasonable representation of the company's revenue requirement. Staff recommends approval of the joint stipulation between the staff and the company.
Okay, thank you. Anything else from council, our council?
Yes, Commissioner, if I may.
Yeah.
I've conferred with counsel for both the staff and the commission, and without objection, I'd like to offer into evidence certain aspects of the file. Specifically, I'd like to offer into evidence for Exhibit 1, which is a composite exhibit, the filings that Entergy Mississippi completed for its FRP submittal. Then I'd also like to offer into evidence Exhibit 2, which the court reporter should have before her, and Exhibit 3, which is a composite exhibit of the data requests that the staff provided and the responses that the company provided to those requests. And Exhibit 2 is the joint stipulation that Mr. Mabry just summarized for the commission.
Okay. Madam Court Reporter, if you would, just enter those, accept them, and enter it into the record. At this time, we'll swear in witnesses. Entergy has 4 witnesses, so would you please, Madam Court Reporter, swear the witnesses?
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay, Entergy, you may proceed.
Thank you, Commissioners. I would like to present each of these witnesses as a panel and then tender them to the staff or the commission for questions at the end.
That's fine.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Turnipseed, can you please state your full name for the commission?
Lee Turnipseed.
And you pre-filed written testimony, correct?
Yes.
And if I were to ask you today those same questions, would your testimony be the same?
Yes.
Are there any changes or updates to your testimony?
There would be changes to reflect the joint stipulation and the overall results of the FRP.
Do you now adopt your pre-filed testimony?
Yes, I do.
Can you provide us an overview for that, for our filing and your testimony?
Yes. Commissioners and staff, my name is Lee Turnipseed. I'm Vice President of Customer Service for Entergy Mississippi. I am the company's lead witness in the proceeding and submitted direct testimony. With me at the table are the other witnesses who filed direct testimony in this proceeding. Mr. Alan Hurd is the Manager of Regulatory Filings. Ms. Shannon Cruz is the Project Coordinator, Regulatory Filings. Dr. Jennifer Rader is the Vice President of Human Resources. Entergy Mississippi is requesting approval of a joint stipulation that provides for a rate increase pursuant to the formula rate plan, which this commission has utilized for many years and permits rate adjustments, both decreases and increases. The commission should approve this joint stipulation because Entergy Mississippi went to great effort to support our customers and the communities we serve during the global pandemic and the second worst storm year season in the last 10 years. And the rate increase resulting from the formula rate plan is necessary to keep Entergy Mississippi in a stable financial position. 2020 was unlike any previous year for Entergy Mississippi. And as challenging as the year was for the company and its employees, Entergy Mississippi knows that 2020 was even more disruptive and difficult for our customers. And only recently, some signs of normalcy have begun to appear. Recognizing that the company can succeed only when our customers and the communities that we serve flourish, Entergy Mississippi made its customers and communities the first and foremost focus of its response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Working with the commission and the staff, we took the unprecedented step to implement the Enhanced Customer Assistance Plan. And under the plan, we suspended all disconnections for non-payment and offered extended, interest-free payment arrangements. We also continued the capital investments for 2020 as planned to improve the energy grid for the benefit of customers. We also wanted these investments to be a source of economic stimulus for the communities we serve. And in 2020, we completed $452 million of infrastructure improvements. We cut $6.9 million of planned expenses not associated with safety and reliability. And finally, working with the commission and staff, we proactively accelerated the return of $50 million of fuel cost over recoveries to lower bills from June through September in 2020. The joint stipulation is the result of consistent, reasonable regulatory oversight by the commission and provides for necessary rate increases to permit Entergy Mississippi's financial condition to remain sound. The joint stipulation reflects the extensive review that the staff conducted of Entergy Mississippi's FRP submittal, as well as its transmission and distribution plan. The company also responded to over 200 data requests from the staff. The stipulation provides for an interim rate adjustment that increases revenues. The main drivers of the interim revenue increase are that the 2020 look-back reflects actual 2020 revenue, which was lower than anticipated when rates were set, and Entergy Mississippi 2020 infrastructure improvements. The joint stipulation further provides for an annual rate adjustment. The main driver of the annual revenue increase is the infrastructure improvements that we are making to meet customers' expectations and satisfy the obligation to serve. As I describe in my testimony, the infrastructure improvements have increased reliability and resiliency and supported economic development. These improvements have helped attract businesses such as Continental Tire and Amazon. Despite these revenue increases, our rates will remain reasonable and will encourage economic development. As shown in my testimony, since the 2014 rate case, our rates have essentially remained flat. With these rate actions, the typical residential price per kilowatt hour is still less than the 2020 United States and Mississippi average residential price per kilowatt hour. And we think these averages will trend higher in 2021. For these reasons, we request that the Commission approve the joint stipulation.
Mr. Hurd, you've also pre-filed a testimony as well.
Yes.
And if I were to ask you those same questions in your testimony, would you respond the same?
Yes.
Do you adopt your pre-filed testimony?
Yes, as modified for the joint stipulation.
Can you provide a summary for the commission?
Yes, I can. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Alan Hurd. I'm the Manager of Regulatory Filings in the Regulatory Filings Group, and I'm responsible for supporting Mississippi rate filings, including the preparation of Energy Mississippi's Formula Rate Plan, or the FRP. I submitted direct testimony supporting the company's March 2021 FRP submittal, where I explained the mechanics of the FRP schedule, the results of the 2020 look-back report, and the 2021 evaluation report, and the drivers of the report results. In my direct testimony, I also discussed the realignment of the ownership cost of the Choctaw facility into FRP in the 2021 evaluation period, and the true-up of the Choctaw ownership cost in the 2020 look-back. I also discussed how the company implemented the Commission's approved transition in the demand-side management costs from the company's energy efficiency rider into the formula rate plan. Energy Mississippi and the Mississippi Public Service staff have agreed on joint stipulation on EML's 2021 FRP submittal, and we are now requesting the Commission adopt the joint stipulation and approve the FRP submittal. In accordance with the provisions of the FRP, the joint stipulation provides for an interim increase of FRP revenues of $15.8 million resulting from the 2020 look-back. Furthermore, the true-up of the Choctaw ownership cost will increase the look-back interim rate by an additional $1.7 million. With respect to the 2021 evaluation report, the joint stipulation provides for a maximum change of revenues of $44.3 resulting from the 2021 evaluation reports. While the required increase in FRP revenues necessary to move EML to the point of adjustment for the FRP would have been $90.9 million, the FRP limits the change in FRP revenues for the evaluation period to 4% of current retail revenues. The 2021 evaluation report rate adjustments also includes $3.9 million of demand-side management costs that are outside the maximum change in revenues. The results of the 2021 evaluation report and the 2020 look-back are reasonable and consistent with the provisions of the FRP. The rate impacts, as staff has explained, are consistent with the stipulation. We believe the joint stipulation approving EML's 2021 FRP submittal should be adopted, and the Commission should approve the company's 2021 evaluation report. Thank you.
Ms. Cruz, you filed pre-filed testimony as well, correct?
Yes.
And in that testimony, you also had an exhibit to that testimony, right?
Correct.
Right. If I asked you the same questions that were in your testimony today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, except as modified by the joint stipulation.
Is the exhibit that's attached to your testimony accurate and correct?
Yes,
It was done under your supervision or guidance, correct?
correct.
Right. Can you give us a summary of your testimony?
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Shannon Cruz. I am the project coordinator within the Regulatory Filings Group, and I work to coordinate the preparation of Entergy Mississippi's Formula Rate Plan, look-back, and evaluation reports. I submitted direct testimony to support the company's 2021 FRP submittal, and I described the more technical details of how the company works to develop the 2020 look-back report and the 2021 evaluation report. Working with subject matter experts across the company, I oversaw the compilation of the financial data into this year's FRP filing, which included certain adjustments in the 2020 look-back and 2021 evaluation reports. The company's 2020 look-back is based on the per-book financial information from the books and records of the company as of December 31st, 2020, with certain adjustments. The company's 2021 evaluation report begins with the 2020 per-book data and includes known and measurable adjustments. As we know, 2020 was a challenging year for all, and the company has worked to account for certain COVID-related expenses in this year's FRP filing. In accordance with the Commission's COVID-19 deferral order,
Entergy Mississippi deferred certain expenses that resulted from the COVID-19 pandemic. Although we are not seeking to recover bad debt associated with COVID-19 in this filing, we have asked the Commission to review and approve the amount that we have deferred. The company also incurred non-bad debt related expenses related to COVID-19, such as necessary PPE, cleaning, and convenience fees. The company now seeks to recover those costs in the 2020 look-back filing. This year, Entergy Mississippi included adjustments to transition demand-side management recovery into the FRP and to facilitate the true-up of the Choctaw revenue requirement outside the bandwidth formula for the 2020 look-back. Also, EML is reflecting short-term incentive compensation in the company's revenue requirement consistent with the joint stipulation. The company's 2020 look-back and 2021 evaluation reports were prepared consistent with the provisions of the formula rate plan and have been subject to a thorough review by the MPUS. We therefore request that the Commission adopt the joint stipulation approving EML's 2021 FRP submittal.
Thank you, Ms. Bruce. Dr. Rader, you also pre-filed written direct testimony, correct?
That is correct.
And if I were to ask you today those same questions that are in your testimony, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
You filed exhibits with your testimony as well?
Yes, that's correct.
And are those exhibits accurate and correct?
Yes, they are.
And they were prepared under your guidance and supervision?
Yes, they were.
Do you now adopt your pre-filed testimony today?
Yes, I do.
Can you provide a summary of your testimony for the Commission?
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My name is Dr. Jennifer Rader, and I'm the Vice President for Human Resources for Entergy Services. My testimony demonstrates the reasonableness and the necessity of Entergy's compensation programs and the related costs incurred by Entergy Mississippi, which are included in the proposed FRP. In order to provide safe and reliable service to our customers, it's imperative we're able to attract and retain a qualified workforce. To be able to do so, Entergy Mississippi must provide compensation comparable to that available to the workforce in utility and other industries. To ensure the compensation is reasonable, Entergy performs benchmark analyses, which shows that Entergy Mississippi's compensation levels are comparable to those in the utility industry, energy services industry, and general industry. My testimony focuses on the reasonableness of the short term, that's the annual incentive pay, and the base pay portions of compensation. Thank you.
Commissioners, I tender the witnesses.
Okay, is there any questions?
I got just a couple.
Okay.
Pretty simple. Dr. Rader, you may can answer this. As I'm reading in our memo, I understand what we're doing on compensation, I understand all of that, but as I understand from what is in here, that there were adjustments made to remove long-term incentive compensation. I just want to make that clear for the record, because when you said that, I want to go back to the memo that we got related to that. And then, I don't know who from the company can answer this question, but it's related to the bad debt to be recognized from COVID. Both debt associated with the Commission's deferral order, which is there, but then you mentioned cleaning supplies and the things that go with it. And I guess, just for curiosity's sake, I understand you incurred those. Is there any reimbursement, what is that amount, and then is there any reimbursement process as far as through the federal government that is available for those associated costs? And it may not be, and it may be a minuscule amount. I just purely out of curiosity wanted to know.
So our non-bad debt related COVID expenses were approximately $3.7 million that we're seeking recovery in our look-back filing.
And that primarily consisted of what?
That consisted of the reimbursement of third-party vendor payment processing fees for debit and credit cards and electronic checks. And the reason why these were provided is because during the pandemic, our customers needed to have a way that they had no cost to them and have remote, contact-free form of payment. And so it was a method that ensured that they could maintain their safety during this time. In addition, it had PP&E for our essential workers, which would include like masks. And then the cleaning that she was referring to would be an example of the cleaning that we would incur is the deep cleaning of like the control room at a generating plant to make sure that our operators were kept safe because they were critical for delivering power.
Thank you, Ms. Turnipseed. I appreciate that. And we were all saying, find a way for folks to use their debit card and credit card, so thank you for that. Well, just back to the bad debt portion of this amount, could you just enlighten me on what that number is?
So the incremental bad debt expense that we've deferred and we're not seeking recovery of at this time is approximately $15.5 million.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all my questions.
Any further questions?
Just a couple, and try not to venture into any confidentiality information that's been filed there, but I know indications of hundreds of $1 million in new plant additions to go forward over the next couple of years. Can anyone on the panel take a deeper dive and a more detailed explanation of what those infrastructure investments look like and entail, and how that potentially benefit customers going forward?
Commissioner, there is a very detailed filing of the over $500 million of investments provided in attachment I in our exhibits. But overall, we are looking at trying to improve the resiliency of the infrastructure and to maintain the reliability overall. And so some of the examples of that would be like sectionalization or automated load transfer type projects. Where, and if you're not familiar with those, if an example or analogous of that would be like if you are going on vacation and you're using Google Maps to help you arrive at your location, and there's a major event on the interstate or highway, and you want to avoid it so that you can get not have a significant impact to your estimated arrival time. Well, so Google Maps will tell you a different route. Well, that's what sectionalization and automated load transfer devices do for our customers, which it helps us to sectionalize or divide the number of customers that would otherwise be impacted by an outage without human intervention. So it's automated, and it helps reduce the number of outages that our customers otherwise would incur. And just an example of the type of investments that we made in 2020, the results of our investments resulted in our service reliability measure improving by 15.8% in 2020. So we're hopeful. We do very diligent, thorough planning at Entergy Mississippi, and the projects that we're looking to implement in 2021, we would hope to continue to see improvement in those type of examples.
And I can give you a brief description of some of the major capital projects. We have two transmission projects involve substation construction. One is the Catlett Road in South Canton. New line and substation is a portion of a larger transmission project consistent with the construction of a new 230 kV substation and 5 miles of 230 kV transmission line to increase area distribution reliability and increase load serving capability to Madison and the Canton area. The commission granted a CCN for this project on October 1st of 19. The substation consists of construction of a new 230 substation of approximately 5.7 miles of transmission line, provided greater flexibility and increased reliability in the DeSoto County area. The commission approved the CCN for this project in March of 20. There are 4 upgrading of existing transmission lines. One is the Flowers Improvement Project, which consists of a construction of 2 new 115 kV lines into the Flowers substation, installing transmission breakers at the Flowers substation to eliminate the 3 terminal line configuration to improve reliability at the Ceres industrial site and load servicing capability. There are other projects such as the Natchez Station Red Gum. There's another one at Scott Pelahatchie upgrade. And then there's one major project at EML's generating unit, the General Andrews full train turbine outage, which includes replacement of buckets of high pressure, intermediate pressure, and low pressure turbine sections, and the inspection and replacement of second and third stage blades.
Appreciate it. Just, so with the factoring in the 2020 look back, the 2021 evaluation, make sure I didn't get them backed up, mixed up. So with the 180 and 374, that's a total rate increase of 554. And that's with the stipulation and the revenue requirement established and with the new FRP. Doesn't the FRP also have impacts on various riders throughout the process, and does that have a cumulative impact or effect as well?
It's part of the bill impacts that were stated. And so it adds, because the riders are based off of the base, it adds a few cents here and there to different riders.
Okay. You mentioned a minute ago about, last summer, June, July, August, September, the approximately $10, $11 a month discount that was allowed to customers because of, I guess, over collection from the prior year. Do we foresee any opportunity of that for the remainder of this year throughout this period?
That was driven by the position that the company was in with the fuel recovery. And at that time, we were in an over-recovery position. I don't know that 2021, we will be in that same position to be able to flow back a credit to customers during the summer peak months.
Last question, Mr. Chairman. I want to go back to that. Commissioner Bailey raised a good point just then because of the 96-cent impact on the riders, which gets you to a $6.50 total related to this. But that's based on 1,000 kilowatt hours. And I'm, for 13 years now, I've asked this question: what is the average residential usage? We're saying 1,000 kilowatts, but is that what the average house uses? What does your average residential customer use a month? And the only reason I'm asking is just for a true picture of what this impact is.
I don't know that specific number. I know personally I've actually used less than 1,000 this year so far. But during the summer months, you probably would be using more than 1,000 kilowatt hours per month because of the heat in the summertime. So I think it's dependent, Commissioner, on what month of the year it might be. So when you're saying an average for the year, it's, it could be slightly higher depending on how warm the weather is. It's going to be weather dependent in the South here and how much we're running our air conditioner.
Well,
or in the winter if you have electric heat.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I get that. I'm just wondering, though, if you looked at past average, what over a 12-month period the average house would use. And it's fine. You can get it to me post this meeting. I thought you just might know. That's all my question.
Commissioner, we'll work to get that information to you.
No problem. Thank you. Every year differs, obviously, because of the weather, so.
All right, any further questions?
I move we approve as presented.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. If there's nothing else before the commission, we will stand adjourned.